the big thing coming up is 23rd of June. There are two by-elections, one in Tiverton and another one in Wakefield. They're both Conservative seats. They're ones that the Conservatives won from the Democrats and Labour, and they will be going back to those parties. And that I think will be a bigger thing. The current polls are, they're bad. They're always bad midterm, and why wouldn't they be terrible after the Partygate issue? What they'll be hoping is that will tick back up. But the big test will be next month with these by-elections. I think the Tories will lose both of them.
It's never a week short of drama in Westminster. But with the publication of the Sue Gray report, complete with images and a £15 billion package to try and ease the burden of the cost of living crisis, it has been another controversial week for Boris Johnson and, of course, his Conservative government. Sue Gray and a culture of drinking, mistreating staff and breaking lockdown rules dominated headlines on Wednesday. And on Thursday, the narrative changed again. The Labour Party say the Tories are winning the battle of big ideas in Westminster, but that hasn't particularly translated to support for Keir Starmer in the polls. The former Downing Street advisor and political commentator Sean Worth is with us now. Hi there, Sean.
Hello, good morning.
I'm really interested to know about how the government of the day is able to change the narrative. I mean, many of us know exactly what was going on, the conversations that must have been going on in Downing Street after Sue Gray, after the report that came out and those photographs. And they didn't want it splashed all over the papers day after day after day. So out comes the Chancellor's windfall tax. What are the conversations that go on in Downing Street to ensure that they get the media on side to follow this narrative?
Well, there's a phrase called feeding the beast, and the beast being the media. There's a 24/7 media culture in this country now. Most stories are come out on Twitter or some other platform before you get a proper grilling through the media. So it's just giving them big stories that will try and displace the one that is harming you. And by the way, I think the implication that you just mentioned, that the Chancellor came out with this big plan in order to knock the Partygate off the schedule, is absolutely right. I think it's a slightly rushed policy, actually, because it hasn't sort of worked out perfectly. But I think it did the job. I think it was yesterday or something, wasn't it? And it seems to have knocked Partygate off the agenda. Sue Gray, probably next week we won't even be talking about it.
Is there a gamble when you go for that the media won't go with you?
Yeah, always. I mean, the big thing, I think, really the challenge for Johnson is coming up with big ideas and big policy agendas. At the moment, he's sort of been forced really to lurch from one crisis to another. The first being, of course, remember, he had to get Brexit done. He was left with this Brexit mess. He had to try and clear it up. Then the pandemic came along. He sort of got through that. I mean, the British establishment got us through that, and he was the leader of that. And I think, he's been credited for that. Then came Partygate. He hasn't had a chance to really put forward a proper leadership agenda around domestic policy, and levelling up is not really a proper policy agenda. There's nothing really happening. It's a series of targets for 2030 or whatever. And what they need to do, and this is how to properly manage the media agenda, is it's got to be policy, and I do think that's a bit of a shortcoming at the moment.
So it's essentially firefighting at the moment in Downing Street, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean they've had to lurch from crisis to crisis. And I think that's what a lot of Conservative MPs are increasingly concerned about. If they don't go for some sort of leadership challenge, they keep him in place, which I think overall is the right thing to do. What they want to see is a reason that he's got that 80-seat majority. If you have an 80-seat majority, you can actually be pretty radical. And one of the biggest problems in our country, for example, if you peel away all the Brexit and war and pandemic stuff, is we've got a massive housing crisis. Literally nothing is being done about it, and that's a fantastic agenda to get on. You get Boris in a high-vis vest and hard hat, bouncing around building sites, handing keys to new couples that want to move into a house. It's brilliant political stuff, but they just haven't been able to get onto anything like this because they've just been lurching from crisis to crisis. But I think that's what Conservative MPs really want to see now.
Is there a sense, do you get the sense that everything is about saving Boris Johnson's job as Prime Minister at the moment at the cost of everything else?
Oh, no, undoubtedly. I mean, they have to be in kind of rescue mode at the moment because obviously the Partygate scandal, it was terribly managed when it first came out. It should have been killed in a couple of weeks by just apologising, coming clean and saying, here's some processes we put in place so it doesn't happen again. But instead they they put in place this huge inquiry which the Met Police got involved in after a while, and then there are fines, and it stretched on for months. When it 100, and I'm just saying this in retrospect. I think I came on your channel and said it at the time. That was very badly handled. But there is a slightly stronger team now in Downing Street. But as I say, the big thing they need to do is get on policy. Policy is the thing that helps move the media agenda. And at the moment, they're responding to the media agenda because they're lurching from crisis to crisis, pressure to attack. They're not leading it with a policy agenda where you map out, say, a 2-year program of just, I don't know, building stuff would be a start. And you build your communications to that. Of course, you'll get thrown off track here and there, but what you want for the next election is a reason to say to the electorate, we've kept this guy in post because he's doing this big thing and he's building these things. You've seen here, there's been 15 already. There's another 20 to go. If you vote the other side in, none of that progress is going to continue. We don't have a reason to say that yet.
How worried will they be in Downing Street? It's on the front of the Eye today, the latest YouGov modelling, which says that Boris Johnson would actually lose his own seat to Labour if there was a general election held tomorrow. And in fact, the Tories would lose all but 3 of their 88 key battlegrounds at the next general election, particularly those vital red wall constituencies. Is that going to be something that really hammers home in Downing Street?
They'll never believe that scenario. Polls in midterm are always wrong, so they'll know that. But it is a bad sign. I mean, the big thing coming up is 23rd of June. There are 2 by-elections, one in Tiverton and another one in Wakefield. They're both Conservative seats. They're ones that the Conservatives won from the Democrats and Labour, and they will be going back to those parties. And that I think will be a bigger thing. The current polls are, they're bad. They're always bad midterm, and why wouldn't they be terrible after the Partygate issue? What they'll be hoping is that will tick back up. But the big test will be next month with these by-elections. I think the Tories will lose both of them. And as I said, I bang the same drum, but I'm really frustrated personally about the lack of a proper policy agenda. I think if you can get something together in very short order and just start delivering it, it will help him massively. But there doesn't seem to be any leadership on that front, and that's a real hole at the moment in the Downing Street race.
Sean, it's good to speak to you, and I'm sure we'll speak again. Thank you ever so much.